Okay, welcome everyone. We're learning Tractate Shabbos, the end of the 12th chapter, which is a chapter Haboine. It's the name of the chapter. We're going to start chapter Ha'oreg soon, and we're holding it 105. We'll start from the top. This is if someone had in mind to write Ches, but instead he wrote two Zayns, twice the letter Zayn. That's what it means. So the Gemara says, we'll learn in the Mishnah that the person is exempt in such a case. Good morning, David. So this ruling in the Mishnah refers to a case where the letters still need to be crowned. So he therefore not liable for writing them. And this ruling of the Bais, however, refers to a case where the letters do not need to be crowned. So the person is therefore liable for writing them because he really completed the letter. If you want to see what it means to crown the letter, you can look at the notes. It says in note 1, you can see a letter Zayin with the crowns on top. And there's rules in the laws of writing Sefer Torah. There's rules of which letters needs to be crowned and how many crowns. Where do we find an expression of abbreviation in the Torah? Abbreviations, where do we find them in the Torah? Shenemar Ki av amen goyim nesaticho. It is stated, for I have made you Av Hamoin, the father of a multitude of nations. The letters Aleph and Beis of the word Av stand for the following. Av nesaticho le'umois. I have made you an Av, father to the nation. This was written about Avraham Avinu. Bachu nesaticho be'umois. I have made you chosen one, Bachu, in among the nations. Hamoin, the letters Hey, Mem, Vav, and Nun, Hamoin. Choviv nesaticha b'umois. I have made you beloved among the nations. Melech nesaticha b'umois. I have made you a king, Melech, over the nations. Vasik nesaticha b'umois. I have made you Vasik, distinguished among the nations. Nemo nesaticha b'umois. I have made you trusted to the nations. Anechi is really acronym. Acronym for what? It's an abbreviation of Ana Nofshi Ksivas Yehovis. I myself wrote and gave the Torah. So when it says when it says in the Ten Commandments, Anechi Hashem Elokecha, the word Anechi is acronym for Ana Nofshi Ksivas Yehovis. I myself wrote and gave the Torah. Rabbanon Amrei, it is an acronym for Amira Ne'ima Ksiva Yehiva. Pleasant statement was written and given. So see how, according to this acronym, how Hashem invested his very self in the Torah. Some say Anechi should be expounded backwards. Starts from the Yud of Anechi, then Chaf, and then Nun, and then Aleph. Yehiva Ksiva Ne'emonim Amorea. It was given in writing. Reliable are its statements. This is a statement of the angel speaking to Bilam. He's upset that Bilam is going to try to curse the Jews. So the angel says, "Keep Yorat Adech Negdi." So now what does it mean, Yorat? It says the letters Yud, Reish, Tes, Yiro, Ra, Sonotiso. Meaning the donkey noticed, the mule was afraid because it saw and it turned aside. She saw, she was afraid, and therefore she turned aside. The Rabbi Shmuel Tana, Academy of Rabbi Shmuel, was taught Carmel, those states Carmel, plump kernels shall be used as grain for the Omer offering. So what is Carmel stands for? Today there's a famous Mount Carmel.
Right.
So it says Carmole, which means a full head of grain. Avacha bar Yaakov Omar, but David and Shimi ben Gera, they cursed them. Shimi ben Gera cursed David. King David said about Shimi, and he cursed me with an explicit curse. What does it mean, explicit curse? It says the proper grammatical form of the adjective explicit would be nimrotzo. What is nimretzes with a taf? Of a plural form and the word is therefore expounded as an acronym for various curses. So he said, now we can see what was the curse that he cursed David. Neutrikon, an acronym for numerous aspersions that Shimi cast against David. First he said David is noyeful. He said he's an adulterer. Moavi who is a Moavi. Oitzeach who is a murderer. Tzoyer who is an enemy. Toeva who is an abomination. So all is hinted in the word nimretzes. Noyev, nun, then Moavi, Oitzeach, Tzoyer, and Toeva. That's the explicit curse that Shimi ben Gera cursed David. When Yosef's brothers were apprehended with his royal goblet in their possession, Yehuda said, how can we speak? How can we justify ourselves? So the word nitztadek, spelled nun, tzadik, tes, dalet, kuf. Nechoinim hanachnu, we are upright. Nun stands for nechoinim, we are tzadikim. We are upright. Tzadikim anachnu, we are righteous. Tehorim anachnu, we are pure. And dakim anachnu, we are innocent. And kedoshim anachnu, we are holy. If one writes two letters in two lapses of awarenesses. Two letters in two lapses of awarenesses. So he wrote Aleph. He was aware that he became aware that it was forbidden, and he forgot. He woke up again. He wrote another letter. Achas shachris, achas ben arbaim, or one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Rabbi Gamliel says he's liable. Rabbi says, 1 second, I didn't say. Still this chapter. So when Gamliel holds him liable, the sages exempt him. Why is Rabbi Gamliel chayiv and Chachamim poitrin? And the sages exempt him. Rabbi Gamliel sovar en yadir lechatzi shiur. There's no awareness for half a measure. Rabbi Gamliel sovar en yadir lechatzi shiur. There is no awareness for half a measure. So therefore, if you look at 21, it says that Rabbi Gamliel holds that becoming aware that the one has committed less than the minimum amount of work required for chatos is not considered a true awareness, and does not therefore prevent the two half measures from combining to create one liability. Rabbi Gamliel apparently bases his ruling on the following reasoning: the principle that the obligation to bring a chatos stems from awareness of the transgressions is derived from the pasuk in Leviticus, if the sin that he committed becomes known to him, he shall bring his offering. Rabban Gamliel expounds the term Chatosoi, his Chatos offering, interprets the pasuk as meaning, if his Chatos offering becomes known to him, the pasuk implies that only the awarenesses of an act that makes one liable to a Chatos penalty is significant. Again, only the awareness of an act that makes one liable to a Chatos penalty is significant. Knowledge of half measure is a sin. Of sin is not regarded as significant and does not preclude the combination of two measures to create liability.
So wait, so we wrote one in the morning and then wrote one in the afternoon, or half. So, okay, so Rabbi Menashe says he's Chayiv. What is this written? It's not so clear, right?
Well, what's the problem?
Okay, Rabbi Gamliel. So there is no awareness for a half a measure. And then, okay, so if there's no awareness, so how are you going to hold him Chayiv?
Because he is saying that, according to Rabban Gamliel, they combine together the two awarenesses to be one.
The morning and the afternoon. Okay.
And once they become one, he becomes liable.
So what's the logic of the Rebbeim saying that he's pater?
Because there was a full awareness, and for that one, he's not. Full awareness does not combine with the other.
All right. Okay.
So if he did it in the morning, there was full awareness.
Yeah.
There's no halfway, and then this afternoon is full awareness, and the two separate times, therefore no liability.
Okay. Well, let's say I have.
Rabban Gamliel says it's combined,
Yeah. So
but the Gemara. Let's see if the Gemara. See what it says. The sages maintain that the person's awareness between the two half measures separates them. See, just as I told you. The sages maintain that the person's awareness between the two half measures separates them and does not allow them to be counted as one liability. Yeah.
Go into this deeper.
So we should return to you, Haboine. With that, we completed the chapter Haboine. Now we're starting the chapter Ha'oireg. One weaves 3 threads at the beginning, or if he adds 1 thread to fabric that is already partially woven, chayav is liable. The rabbi said, sages say, bein v'tchila, bein b'sof, whether at the beginning or at the end, shi'uroi shnei chutin. Its minimum measure for liability is 2 threads. Mishnah now discusses the malacha of setting 2 heddles. If one sets 2 heddle eyes, banirin in heddles, bakerus in a kerus, banofo, bakvoro, wasal, in a fine sieve, a coarse sieve, or a basket, chayav is liable. Vatefer shtei spherois, one who sews 2 stitches, v'kerea al menas lisper shtei tefiros, one who tears in order to sew 2 stitches is liable. Also, Rabbi Yitzchak came to Bavel, to Babylonia. He taught a Baisa according to which Rabbi Lezer stated that a person is liable for weaving 2 threads in the beginning of a new fabric. The Gemara says, "Ve'anan tenan sholish," but we learned, Mishnah 3, not 2. This apparently contradicts the Baisa cited by Rabbi Yitzchak. The Gemara says, "Lo kasha." It's not difficult. This version of Rabbi Lezer deals with thick threads. This other version deals with thin threads. Amar l'lai gisa, some explain it one way. Amar l'lai gisa, and some explain it the other way. And now the Gemara will see how it works both ways. Amar l'lai gisa alime, some explain it one way. If thick threads were used, losely sosre, 3 woven threads will not unravel. Trei sosre, 2 such threads will unravel. One is therefore not liable. One is therefore not liable unless he weaves 3 thick threads. Ketine, if thin threads are used, 2 will not unravel. Person is therefore liable for weaving just 2 thin threads. 3 of them are noticeable. 2 are not noticeable. One is therefore not liable unless he weaves 3 thin threads. Alime, however, if the threads are thick, 2 also are noticeable, and the person will be liable for weaving just 2. Tanya, one weaves 3 threads at the beginning, or if he adds 1 thread to woven fabric, but the sages say, whether at the beginning or at the end, their minimum measure for liability is 2 threads, and on the edge, the minimum is 2 threads in a width of 3 heddle eyes. To what is this similar? For weaving a small belt, for which the minimum is 2 threads in a width of 3 heddles. Now, when the Baisa begins, if one weaves 3 threads at the beginning, or adds 1 thread to woven fabric, Chayav is liable. It is anonymous in accordance with Rabbi Elazar's view, stated in our Mishnah. Gemara cites another Baisa to elaborate on the Malacha of weaving. Tanya Idach, it was taught in another Baisa. Remember, the Malacha of weaving existed in the Mishkan for the curtains, right? The coverings also. Tanya Idach, if one weaves 2 additional threads onto a large piece of woven fabric, on the border of new piece of fabric, Chayav is liable. Even if one is liable for weaving even 1 additional thread to woven fabric. And on the edge, if he weaves 2 threads in a width of 3 heddle eyes, Chayav is liable. To what is this similar? To weaving a small belt for which the minimum is 2 threads in a width of 3 heddle eyes. When the Baisa begins, if one weaves 2 additional threads onto a large piece of woven fabric, or 2 threads on the border of a new piece of fabric, Chayav is liable. It is anonymous in accordance with the rabbi's view, as stated in our Mishnah. One who sets 2 heddle eyes in needles, my banirim. What does the Mishnah means when it states in heddles? Amar Abaye tarte bevote nir. It is a system where a heddle rope is wrapped around each warp threads, 2 times for heddle loops, v'chado b'niro, and then 1 time around the heddle rope itself. Bakerus, in kerus, my bakerus, what is kerus? Amarav metzuvi, so a heddle frame which is used by those who weave curtains. Mishnah teaches that one is liable for setting up heddles in the frame of such a loom. Tefer state firo is one who sews 2 stitches. Hatanina ba'ovis melochos, but we already learned this in the Mishnah listing the primary labors. Tefer state firo is one who sews 2 stitches. Why does our Mishnah repeat? Why does our Mishnah repeat this? Mishum de kavod misna sefer, because our Mishnah wanted to teach at the end, v'akirea menas litpo shtet firois, one who tears in order to sew 2. One who tears in order to sew 2 stitches. Ketani nami atefer, it taught also one who sews. V'akirea, did the Mishnah need to teach one who tears? Hanami tanina ba'ovis melochos, we already learned in the Mishnah listing the primary labors. There is no reason to repeat that melacha here either. Rather, its Mishnah is needed because it wants to teach at the end, in the next Mishnah, one who tears in his anger or for his dead. Because of this, our Mishnah teaches one who sews 2 stitches. And one who tears in order to sew 2 stitches. Where do you find it? The avodo kikisoso, where he made the garment lumpy like a pocket. If the person tears the section in order to resew 2 stitches, he is liable on account of tearing. That's the bottom line. If a person tears this section in order to resew 2 stitches, he is already liable on account of tearing. So it's really the destructive act, but for the purpose of constructive,
right,
of repairing, like demolishing a wall for the purpose of rebuilding, for the purpose of renovating. Say one who tears in anger, he's upset, so he's ripping the clothes. Or for his dead, and all who act destructively, peturin, they are exempt. But one who destroys in order to repair, his minimum measure is the same as for one who repairs. The minimum measure of one who whitens, disentangles, dyes, or spins, is double the width of a sit. One who weaves 2 threads, his minimum measure is a full sit, S-I-T. One is liable for weaving 2 weft threads through the warp for the length of a sit, even though that amount does not cross the entire width of the fabric. Ureminu, they noted the contradiction between our Mishnah And the following by Sakura, Bechamose, one who tears in his anger, Uve'evlo val meso, in a state of mourning, or for his dead, Chayav is liable, V'afal pisha mechal Shabbos, even though he desecrated the Shabbos with his act, this act, Yotze dekriya, he fulfilled the obligation of rending that one must perform upon the death of a relative. Why does our Mishnah state that the person is exempt if he tears in anger or for his dead? Like kasha. This Baisa is dealing with one's own dead. He has the obligation to rend his garment. His act of tearing is therefore constructive and subject him to liability. With any dead, when he's not obligated, is not liable because a destructive act that does not benefit him in any way. But the Mishnah stated his dead. The Mishnah too refers to a deceased relative and his patu. So why? This was a destructive act, but with a benefit that served them. Actually, the Mishnah does refer to his own dead, to his own relative. But one for those for whom he is not subject to mourning, like his mother-in-law, his in-laws, or even maybe step family or something like that. Relatives that he doesn't have to mourn for them.
So when you do
Cousin,
it for them, then you're not
uncle.
You're putter then.
Yeah, because it's destructive and it doesn't serve you in any way.
So, but let's say you did it for your Rav, then you would be chayav.
No, you're not, only if you're obligated. If
Okay.
it's done for like
The seven
close relatives.
Right.
One is surely obligated to rend his garment.
I didn't see it when I said that.
In the Tanya Chacham Shemesa Kol Koivo, regarding a sage who died, all are his relatives. It's not necessarily so for halacha.
No, I'm just.
Yeah. For at first understanding the Baisa literally, the Gemara interrupts to seek clarification. Kol Koivo Sakai Daitach, do you think that all are really the sage relatives? Elaima Kol Kikroivo, where it says all are like his relatives.
Okay.
In respect to other obligation to mourn for him. Akol Korin Olov, all render their garments for him. Akol Cholzim Olov, all bear their shoulders for him. Akol Marin Olov B'chov, all are fed the mourner's meal in the street for him. Since he is obligated to rend his garments for the sage, his act is constructive and he should be liable if he does so on the Shabbos. What do you say about the Rebbe?
I think the Rebbe's secretary sat Shiva for him now.
Lo tzricha de lav chacham, the Mishnah is needed only where the deceased is not a sage. V'odam koshu, but if the deceased was an upright person, chiyuv v'mechayev, one is surely obligated to rend his garments. Tanya, mipnei ma meisim v'onu v'bnei shod mishmar. Tanya, why do a person's sons and daughters die when they are minors? Kedei shivke v'saber odam koshu, so that he will whip and mourn for an upright person. It says in 13, that is, someone who was not suspected of any transgression and who did not fail to fulfill any mitzvah he could, even though he was not a great Torah scholar.
So children are considered innocent, so therefore.
Yeah, someone who was not suspected of any tradition who did not fail to fulfill, even though he was not a great Torah scholar. It's called Adam Kosher. He's Adam Kosher, and therefore others would be seemingly liable to mourn for him. in order to explain its question, the Gemara first notes a difficulty with the bicycle. In order for him to cry, do they then take a security from him? If a person punished before his sins? The Gemara therefore explained what the Baisa means. Rather, he is punished with the death of his children because he did not whip, and he did not weep and mourn for an upright person. Anyone who weeps for an upright person, he cries for upright for a tzaddik person that passed away. They forgive him for all of his sins, also because of the respect that he paid to that person. We see that a person is obligated to mourn any upright person. Why then should he be exempt if he rents his garment for him on the Shabbos? Because it's a constructive work. Seemingly he was liable to do so. The Gemara says, the Mishnah is needed only where the deceased is not an upright person. But if he was standing there at the time of the departure of the soul, he is surely obligated to rent his garments. The Tanya, it was taught in a Bais. One who stands by a dead person at the time of the departure of the soul, is obligated to rent his garments. To what is this analogs? Let's say analogous. It's analogous to Sefer Torah, the Torah scroll that was burnt. Well, the one who witnesses a Sefer Torah burning must rent his garments. Why then should he be exempt on the Shabbos? The Mishnah is needed only where he was not standing there at the time of the departure of the soul. The tearing is therefore a purely destructive act for which one is exempt on the Shabbos. So, having successfully resolved one difficulty, the Gemara now addresses the other problem. Tinach Meisei, the problem was with the case of his dead is settled. But there's still a contradiction between the Mishnah's ruling about one who tears because of his anger and the Brisa ruling about one who tears because of his anger. There is also no difficulty about the two contradictory rulings about one who tears because of his anger. This Brisa, which holds the person liable, follows the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Whereas this Mishnah, which exempts the person, follows the view of Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon is exempting the person, Rabbi Yehuda is holding him liable. Rabbi Yehuda, this Brisa follows the view of Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even if you don't need the melacha, you're doing some kind of work on Shabbos that is not needed, you're still liable for it. And the view of Rabbi Shimon is that melacha that is not needed for its own sake, you're patur if you did it on Shabbos. One who performs a forbidden labor not needed for its defined purpose is exempt for it. 105b3. The Gemara asks, Eimer the Shamas le Rabbi Yehuda, when did you hear Rabbi Yehuda state his opinion? B'mesaken, when the person rectifies something with his act. V'mekalkel mishomotlei. Did you hear him say that one is liable when he acts destructively? Therefore, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, the person should not be liable for tearing his garment because he is destroying something, not fixing. Amar Rabbi Menashe Amitay, the kovid nachas ruach leitzra. Someone who tears out his garment out of anger is also fixing something. It calms himself down.
Sometimes.
Cooling off his anger. He lets off steam on the clothes. Chai Gavno Mishori, with this type of behavior permitted? Question mark. Vatanyo was taught Rabbi Shimon Lozo Eimer Mishum Chilfa Bar Agro, in the name of Chilfa Bar Abba Shalom Mishum Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, one who Amikareya Begodo B'Chamosei. If one tears his garment out of anger, he breaks his utensils in his anger. Takes his money and throws it because he's angry. He should be, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, this character should be in your eyes as one who is performing idolatry. For this is the craft, this is the specialty of the evil inclination. Today he tells them, you're angry, you break the plate, break the cup. The next day he says to him, do something else. Do this until it tells him go perform idolatry. Then he goes and performs it. What is the pasuk that alludes to the statement of the Bison? Shall be no strange God within you, nor shall you bow before the alien God. What is the strange God? What is the Kel Zal that is the strange God that is in the body of a person? This is the evil inclination. At any rate, by tearing one's clothes to cool his anger, he has not performed a constructive act, because it actually increases the strength of his evil inclination. He's serving it because that's what the evil inclination wants him to do. Why then should he be liable for such an act on the Shabbos?
Good news, bad news.
So the Gemara says, he was cheating, he wasn't really angry, he wanted to show to his family as if he's angry, and he smashed the cup or something like that. Aruda pulled off the border of a garment to demonstrate his displeasure. Yaakov broken utensils. Threw a fish brine at the head of his maidservant. It's a nice... Rabbi Abba broke a lid of a pitcher. Since in such circumstance the person has performed a constructive act, because he got people in line, he straightened them up, even though the labor was not performed for its defined purpose, he is liable according to Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Mishum Bar Kapora. Kol hamerid mois al adam kosher, anyone who sheds tears for an upright person. He cries for someone tzaddik that passed away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu seifron, umanichom bebeis genozav. Hashem is counting these tears, and He puts them away, and He stores them in His house of treasury. How do we know this? Shenema noidi sofarto ato simo dimosi v'neidecho aloi b'sifosecho. This is in Tilim, probably, yes, Psalms 56:9, where it says, my wanderings you have yourself counted. Place my tears in your flask. Are they not in your account? Amar Avuda Amar Rav. Avuda said in the name of Rav, Kol hamisatzel v'espedo shel chacham. Anyone who acts lazily, is lazy over the eulogy of a sage. Is to eulogize the sage, say his accomplishment, his greatness. Chabad is not. Chabad, the custom is not to do eulogies, but if you're already doing a eulogy and you're just making it very short,
Usually some
out of laziness,
something.
out of laziness.
Shloshim, they say more just shloshim.
So Roi Lekovo B'chav is fit to be buried alive. Shenemar, because it says, Vayikvi roise b'gvul nachalosoi b'simna serach asher b'ar Ephraim mitzvoin la'ar Goash. It is stated they buried him, they buried Yeshua in the border of his inheritance, the inheritance of Ephraim. Yeshua was from the tribe of Ephraim. Timnas Serach was the name of the place, which is in a mount of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. Melamed Shirogash Len Har Lehogon. This teaches that the mountain trembled over them, almost an earthquake, and the mountain almost killed them because they did not properly eulogize Yeshua. Regarding anyone who acts lazily over the eulogy of a sage, his days will not be prolonged. Mida keneged mida, measure for measure. With a precise measure you shall contend with her when you send her away. Remember, we learned it in Saita. The nation served Hashem all the days of Yeshua. And all the days of the elders, whose days were prolonged after Yeshua. We see that elders did live a long time, even though they were lazy about his eulogy. Amar lei bevavloi bavlai Babylonian yom erichu shonim lo erichu. Their days were prolonged, but their years were not prolonged. What does that mean? Bavloi the Babylonian said that the days were prolonged, but not the years. It says in 34, 35. That is, they ended their life in good condition, as derived in Tractate Yoma, but they did not live to an old age. So their days they didn't suffer, they had a good time. Their life was good, but they didn't live long life. Ela me'ato, but now when the pasuk says to keeps those who keeps God commandments, it says, Leman, why should you do it? Leman yirbu yameichem v'mevenechem, in order to prolong your days and the days of your children. Yomim v'lo shonim, it doesn't speak about the years, it speaks about the days. It also says, Bracho shaning. A blessing is different. Why? It certainly means that the people will reach old age when it comes to a bracha. If one of the brothers died, idagu kol ha'achin kulo. All the brothers should worry that they too may die. If one of the members of a group died, the entire group should worry about death. Amrullah the Meis Gadol, some say about it, it refers to where the greatest among them died. Amrullah the Meis Katan, and others say that it refers to where at least among the least among them died. Since the head of the household was stricken, the others should worry about what that they could be next, God forbid. The Gemara in Brochus states that a group punishment begins with at least the important member. Therefore, if such a member dies, the others must be concerned that this is the beginning of a plague that will strike them as well, God forbid. Bruchim Tiu should all live long life and good life. The days should be filled and the years should be filled.
All right.